Political expert, TV personality, entrepreneur, and my longtime friend Lara Trump is a force to be reckoned with. Lara, a North Carolina native, is also known for her advocacy of veterans affairs and animal adoption. Lara serves as the co-chair of the Republican National Committee. She is currently the host and producer of her own hit podcast, The Right View. Being the loving mother of two beautiful children, Carolina and Luke, and the wife of Eric Trump, makes Lara a pillar of one of the most historic American families. Throughout my friendship with Lara, I've always admired her loyalty, resilience, and heart. But what makes Lara stand out is her authenticity. The fact that she is who she is, regardless of who's looking. In this episode, we dive deep into the courage it takes to embrace that vulnerability. What happens when your morals are directly challenged in the dog-eat-dog world of politics? And how to find your own light when the future is anything but certain. I hope a window into Lara Trump's world might be a mirror into your own.
Mirrors and Windows with Katrina Campins.
All right, Lara, well, thank you so much for being here with me.
Thank you.
This is a lot of fun because I wanted to really chat with you like we normally chat, right?
Yeah.
And for people to see a different side of you. So I have so many memories with you and with the family, but the one that really sticks in my head, and you probably don't even remember this moment, but we were in the Women for Trump bus tour, right? Mm-hmm. Donald Trump had just announced that he was going to run for president the first time around. Mm-hmm. I think you had just been working for, was it Entertainment Tonight?
Inside Edition.
Inside Edition.
Close.
But so you couldn't do that job anymore because you were on a campaign, which a lot of people don't realize that once you're on a campaign, you can't work in media, right? There has to be a separation. But we were on the bus tour, and by then the climate was very different than it is now. It was very polarizing. The media was trying to convince everybody that, you know, Trump was someone that he's not. And you took a leap of faith, right? And you were on this bus. And I remember you're so humble. You were sitting there with us, and maybe there was like 4 of us, and you're like, what am I going to do if this doesn't work out? Like, no, we didn't know at that time what was going to happen, right? What am I going to do? And you said to us, and I get the chills as I'm saying it, but you were so humble and so real, and your courage to just say, like, I have no idea what I'm going to do. And I remember looking at you in that moment thinking, she has such light to share with the world, regardless of what happens
that's so nice.
with this campaign. And she's going to do amazing things. What were you thinking in that moment?
Wow. Well, thank you. First of all, how sweet are you? That's so nice. I do remember that because look, I really enjoyed my job at Inside Edition, and it was cool. It was exciting. I really liked it. And I remember when my father-in-law asked me if I would help him in my home state of North Carolina. Eric and I talked, and I was like, I think your dad just like put me in charge of North Carolina. And he was like, well, you better take a leave of absence from work. And I was like, but what does that mean? And so not knowing, and you're right, that God, it was so aggressive, and nothing prepares you for that. I don't think anything could have prepared any person out there for how aggressively they tried to take down Donald Trump in that the first, little bit that he was running for president. But I did wonder, like, what happens to me? Because look, Katrina, as you know, I'm just a normal girl from North Carolina. Mm-hmm. I could be any girl out there. I probably grew up like most Americans did. And having the last name Trump was already like such a big thing for me. I never anticipated something like that, than being part of a presidential campaign. But I think that for a lot of us, we said, well, what happens next? They're really demonizing not just Donald Trump, but those of us who were supporting him, not the least of which was you as well, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think we all kind of had to take this big leap of faith and say, you know what, we're gonna go out and we're gonna do what we know is right. We're gonna speak the truth. And initially, that's how I got involved. Did I know anything about politics in 2015? No, but I knew who Donald Trump was, and I knew how he treated me as his new daughter-in-law, because Eric and I were only married for 6 months when he announced he was running for president. And so that's what I did. I went out and talked about the man I knew, about the father to my husband. And that's initially how I started. And look, for everything in life, I kind of feel like I've just put my faith in God into everything I do. And I've just said, lead me, show me where you want me to go. And obviously it's taken me some very interesting places, no doubt.
And you know what's, and I remember those moments as well, because I had my own real estate company. Eric had reached out and said, hey, by the way, we're starting Trump International Realty in South Florida. We want you to come on board. And I said, okay, I'll think about it. The next thing you know, I'm sitting with Ivanka at Trump Doral, right? And then up comes President, he wasn't president at the time, but Mr. Trump at the time. It's like, so what's happening, ladies? And she said, oh, Katrina's going to come work with us. And I thought to myself, well, we just started to discuss it, but you know how that goes. Like,
yeah.
Well, I wouldn't think about it. Turns into, hey, I'm on this amazing
it's
journey.
Done. You're officially there.
Yeah, but I was bearing the Trump International name, right? And I remember when he announced he was going to run for president, people literally grabbed those signs and they threw them in canals. And they were so mean about it, right? But those same people, when he won, called me for tickets to go to the inauguration.
Oh, and isn't it funny how that works?
I'm like, wait a second, didn't you throw the sign in the canal? And so it was very, very polarizing, which brings me to my next question, which is, what does loyalty mean to you? Because for me, it's really important.
Yeah, it's very important to me. And I consider myself a loyal person, not because anyone's ever said that to me. It's just how I've always been. That's how I operate. If someone is good to me and treats me right, I want to reciprocate that. And it's hard. This business of politics, loyalty is few and far between when it comes to people with whom you surround yourself. And it's why when I think Eric and I find people who we trust, we really trust them. When you come in and you're part of our inner circle of friends, you're really in, because you can't trust everybody. And it's a shame, and people burn you, and you see it time and time again. And I think that's why our family has remained so close throughout all of this, because sometimes the only people you really can trust are your family members. And I think if you talk to my father-in-law, I think he'll be the first to say that. It's hard to know the good people from the bad people sometimes, although he has a very good sense of that. I know you know that. But you can count on your family. You can trust your family. And we've all been here from the beginning. We're all still here today, and we'll all be here throughout the course of whatever happens.
Well, I've met your parents. I've had the privilege of meeting your parents. And I think it all starts with them, because they are just so real. Mm-hmm. They're so genuine. They're so kind-hearted. And it's been very challenging, for me, even the short time that I was in and out of Washington, because it's so cutthroat, right? Yeah. And even the Republicans back then with each other were backstabbing each other. So I thought to myself, man, this is just so difficult, right? To be raised a certain way. But you've remained who you are regardless of who's looking throughout the entire time. I always say, and I've called you and said, no one can understand. Laura can understand, And so how have you remained that way throughout it all?
Gosh, I don't know. I think it's just like you talked about my parents, They raised me a certain way, and I am a very grounded person, and I know the things that really matter, and the things that matter the most to me, really, it starts with my family. Mm-hmm. My 2 kids, Luke and Carolina, my husband, Eric, our dogs, Charlie and Ben, and those are the things at the end of the day that I do everything I do for, right? And I think that for me, I never want to change who I am. I've always appreciated the upbringing I had, and I don't know, you say loyalty and you put my parents in there. That's right. I mean, this is how they taught me to be. Mm-hmm. And the values with which I was raised, I still carry today. And I wouldn't change that for anything in the world. And so I don't really know any other way to be, Katrina. I don't know.
I know, but you're literally, because it's been really tough for me, throughout the whole journey, because I'm very empathetic. I take things personally. I know President Trump doesn't take things personally. That's one of his strongest suits. I take things to heart. It hurts my soul, right? I try for it not to, but it's just the way I was raised, right? Mm-hmm. And I tell my mom, not everything's unicorns and rainbows. You raised us. It's a tough world out there, but you've remained just so steady and so real, and you've had the courage to just be who you are. And that's another thing about you and Eric and the family is people don't realize is, for instance, I'm they go to monster truck events. That was another thing.
Oh my God, that's right.
You invited us, right, to go to Monster Truck.
Monster Jam.
Monster Jam with the kids. And I'll never forget it, because they were on their way. You guys were on your way from Jupiter, right, to Miami. And Luke got sick, right? And he ended up getting sick and he couldn't make it. And so you got another, what happened? You went in another.
Oh, this was a whole travesty. Yeah, there was a bit of a stomach bug going around. And I knew when we got in the car, he was like, I don't know, my stomach hurts. And I said to Erica, I was like, every mom knows this, by the way, Katrina, And I was like, this isn't it. We gotta turn this sucker around. It's not gonna be good. And Eric's like, oh, he's fine. You're exaggerating. Sure enough, we get on the Florida Turnpike and it did not go well. We had to turn the car around and I had to take Luke home, but Eric and Carolina wanted to go to Monster Jam. Carolina was 2 years old. And
she rocked it.
Okay, but as a mom, sending dad just with your 2-year-old daughter, I was like, okay, so you're gonna get her like food and water and you're gonna be able to take her to the bathroom. And he was like, I got it, calm down. And sure enough, he did have it.
He did a great job. And he even said to us, like when she had to use the bathroom, he's like, do you mind taking her? I'm like, so, I mean, he's just such a great dad and you're such a great mom.
Yeah.
But one thing that really, I look at you and I'm like, how does she do it all, right? As a mother, because I feel like all moms now are just so burnt out.
It's hard.
Trying to do it all. And you've sacrificed so much by being the co-chair now of the RNC. Like, I would imagine you've missed a lot of memories, right, with your kids. How do you deal with that guilt?
It's so hard. Mom guilt is so real, and it's
so real,
and it cuts so deep. There is nothing that hurts as much as the mom guilt. It was my reticence in taking this job was that mom guilt. I knew that this election, of all elections, there was so much at stake, and the gravity of it was not lost on me. And so when I was asked to consider running for RNC co-chair, I immediately was like, absolutely not. Because I knew what it would mean. I knew how much work was going to have to go into this. I knew how much time I would spend away from my kids. Because I've seen presidential elections before. I know what those are about, but never in this kind of role. And so I was very, very hesitant to say yes to this. But for me, I try to schedule my life so that I can be there for whatever I can. And honestly, I'll be really honest, a lot of times it means I don't sleep a lot. If I have to take the first flight out in the morning just so that I can get back at that same night to tuck my kids in bed, I'm gonna do that. Or the last flight of the day so that I can be there when they wake up in the morning. Whatever I had to do throughout the course of this campaign and election, I would do, and I still do it. Life is still nuts. I still have a lot of things going on. But I think you try your best and you try to be there for the things that matter. And ultimately I know my kids will look back on this and I hope they're proud of what their mom did. And I hope they really understand. And I'm lucky too, because my mom, God bless her, you talked about my parents. My mom, I call her all the time and I'm like, can you come down? Because I'm going to be gone for like 5 days in a row. And she, of course, is always like, let me look through my schedule. Yeah, I can do it. I'm like, thanks, Mom. So knowing that my mom is there and they're spending that quality time with her takes the edge off a little bit. Mm-hmm. But every mom out there has something. We're all out there hustling. We're all out there trying to do our best. And you're never going to do anything perfectly. But what I do think about, and I mean, this is sort of a weird analogy. You may or may not know we have the Trump Winery in Charlottesville, Virginia.
I do.
Yes. And the Trump Winery wins for its sparkling wine all of the time, all over the country. One of the best, by the way, is the San Francisco Food and Wine Festival, where they do blind taste testings. And whenever they pull the hood off the Trump bottle, and the liberals in San Francisco have to see that a Trump won the best sparkling, their heads are basically exploding. It's a beautiful thing. But when you're growing grapes for champagne, for wine, you actually want the plant itself to struggle a little bit because it makes the grapes actually have a very distinct flavor. It gives them more character. I kind of think about that with my kids too. And I'm like, it would be great if I could be there for every single thing it is that my kids do. But in some ways, for them to appreciate when I'm around a little bit more sometimes, that's okay. For them to have their own, challenges, and I know there will be more. They're 5 and 7, so there's going to be a lot more in their future. That's okay too, because it does build character. And I don't want everything to be made easy for my kids. I don't want them getting a participation trophy. I want them to get out there and have to hustle and work hard for whatever it is they want to do, because it does ultimately build that character. So somewhere in the back of my mind, I assuaged the mom guilt by saying like, oh, there are just these plants that are developing this great character if I missed a soccer game or something. But I try to be there for all of it.
Honestly, I'm going to think of that now.
Yeah.
I have a lot of mom guilt all the time. So
I
I'm
know.
going to think of you in the back of my head. Like, I'm helping him be a better man in the future.
Yeah, it's true. I believe something.
It's challenging, and all the activities and everything else. But you also have great parents. You have a great husband.
Yes.
You guys are incredibly blessed. And speaking of Eric, I remember I was looking at photos, and I don't know if you remember this. There was an event in New York. I don't know. You guys had maybe been dating for like 2 years. It was some event, but we all look so young. Like how time has passed. But how did you initially meet Eric?
So we met in 2008, like out with friends one night. And I know that this is like the least romantic story, but Katrina, this is before smartphones. I had a Razor phone. This shows how old I am. No one judge me. I had a Razor phone. Literally my roommate at the time had friends in town and begged me to go out with her. And it was one of those where I was in like sweatpants already. And I was like, no, dude, I'm staying in. I'm doing a movie night. Like, good luck to you. And she was like, please, my friend is in town. And I'm so grateful for my roommate, Marielle, because had it not been for her really harassing me to go out, I would have never met Eric Trump, at least not that night. And we just happened to be out with friends downtown in New York, and he was much taller than I was, and I was wearing heels, and that seemed like a good fit to me.
Isn't that a great plus? Hard to come by.
But I didn't even know an Eric Trump existed. I'd heard of Ivanka because I think I got like Teen Magazine or something. I knew who Donald Trump was. Don, I don't think I knew that Don existed. I certainly didn't know Eric existed, but here we are 16 years later.
And what's so beautiful about your relationship is the two of you support each other unconditionally. You allow each other to shine. He encourages you nonstop, and you do the same to him. And that's so rare, because I find that, women in your position, and I see this with so many successful women, the men get threatened, right? But I've never seen that with Eric. It's totally the opposite. He literally wants you to shine and shine and shine. How does that feel?
Oh my gosh, I feel so lucky. I feel so lucky for so many reasons. I mean, the word blessed, I think I would have to use for so much of my life, because I really can't explain any of it or why I deserve any of it or anything. But you're right. I think that, to have the support of your spouse in everything you do it's so big. It's such a big deal. We're always more powerful together than we are separate. That's just, how life is. Whatever it is you're doing, more people is more strength. And so to have the support of him and him championing me and everything that I'm doing and I've done, it's incredible. And it does take a really strong man, I think, to be able to not feel threatened, to really want that success for your spouse, for your wife. And I'm very grateful for Eric Trump.
It's very rare. And the other way around, because you just encourage him, and you've just always had such confidence in yourself. And I think it comes from that self-worth that you feel and the way, again, you were raised. Every time I saw your mom at your birthday party, I ran up to her, I'm like, I love your daughter. Aww. She's the biggest blessing in the world. Congratulations on such a great daughter. Because you really are, Lara. And it's just so incredibly rare to find in all industries, but especially politics.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That's so nice. And like I said, I can't really explain any of it. I always try to do what I think is right. And I try to be a good person and a nice person. And that's also hard to come by in this field as well. Because sometimes people are awful. And, you were talking about just a minute ago how hard it is for you to hear some of that stuff. And I think it's been very important for all of us in the Trump family, but certainly for me, not coming from a background where, I'm out in the public space as much as probably my husband and his siblings were used to. The initial shock of having people say negative things about you publicly is a lot. And nothing really prepares you for that. But what I've had to learn is that none of those people matter. The ones who matter are the ones who really know me. And it's very hard, but man, I try not to click on any comments on an article about me, because I know they'll probably all be really nasty and bad. And look, as long as I'm happy, my kids are happy, my husband's happy, and we're doing the right thing and we're good people, ultimately that's all that matters. And the people who know me the best are the ones who can tell you everything about me, and it's always going to be nice things. And those who hide behind a keyboard really don't matter. And I think that's a good lesson for all of us, actually.
100%. And, having been in the celebrity and entertainment world for 2 decades, I still, and I'm not just saying this because you're in front of me, I still say, like, you guys are so normal.
We try.
Like, you're just so normal.
Yeah.
You have family values, you have morals, you have ethics, and you do things, and that are just normal. And it's so hard for people to comprehend that because you're not pretentious, like, at all. And that's why I think I always feel at home with you all, and I have for 2 decades, because that's just the way I was raised too, right? Is we're all made out of the same fabric.
Right.
And there's such simplicity, right? And such joy and simplicity in life. And I think you guys appreciate those moments.
100%. And you have to appreciate those moments. And, I'll never forget my mom telling me when I was a kid, she said, you'll never remember exactly what people said to you, but you'll always remember how they made you feel. And my goal when I'm around people, and maybe it's the only interaction they ever have with the Trump, is I always want to make people feel good about themselves. I want to elevate people. I want to make them feel that they're important and they have something to offer, because everyone does, and everyone is important. Everyone does matter. And so that's just generally the motto that I live by. And I hope that I can instill that in my kids as well, because it's really served me well in life. I think that our entire world would be better off if we all just remembered at the end of the day, everybody's dealing with something. Everybody's got their own thing that they're going through or whatever it is. You could be a little nice to people every now and again, and maybe leave them with a nicer impression of you than they initially thought they might have.
It's so incredibly important. And I always say, you're only as pretty as you treat people. And that's something else that really sticks out with me about you, is you're always so kind, as I mentioned, regardless of who's looking. You're not acting a certain way because you think someone's looking. You just are who you are. Right. And that's why I think you're just such an amazing example for women who are trying to balance it all, and for young girls.
Thank you.
Speaking of everything you've done, right? I think, at least for my life, and this is all about, a window into someone else's world is kind of a mirror into your own, is you've been thrown to the fire without even having time to think about it, right? Like, run this campaign, win North Carolina, co-chair of Women for Trump. But I think in those moments, we realize our full potential. How has your father-in-law encouraging you in those moments helped you reach your full potential? And where do you see yourself in the future?
Oh, wow. I mean, I wouldn't be part of any of this without him. And I talked about it a little bit in my speech at the RNC. The goal I had for that speech, it's easy for me to go out and rattle off the typical political stuff. I do that all day. But I really wanted to give people a little insight into the Donald Trump that I know, and the man that the media tells you doesn't exist. He is a grandfather. He is a father. He's a father-in-law. And the ways he's encouraged me personally in my own life have been transformational for me. And, anytime you get support from anyone you respect, it's a big deal. I don't think you'll ever know the impact he's truly had on so many people, but directly for me, having him call me and ask me to run for co-chair of the RNC, and I immediately was like, I don't think I can do this. Not right now. This is crazy. I have too many things going on. I have kids and this, that, and the other. And knowing that he had enough confidence in me to ask me to do that. And I was like, God, if he's confident in me in doing this, I guess I can do it. That is, it cannot be overstated. I am so grateful to him for allowing me to be a part of any of this, to have a sideline view to history, to go out and campaign for him in 2016, knowing none of us knew what the heck we were doing, Katrina. He was just like, yeah, get out there. You want to do some interviews? And we were like, huh?
I remember, speaking of it, I remember Univision wanted me to do an interview in Spanish. I'm like, Lara, I can't do this interview. I'm like, you need to come with me. And you're like, but I don't speak Spanish. I'm like, we'll just stand there and they'll do subtitles.
I remember that. Oh my gosh.
I'm like, this is a classic moment.
I remember that. Yep. But all of those things, I think we are all able to handle more than we think, and we're probably all able to accomplish more than we believe. And again, it goes back to what I just said, which is whenever you have the support of another person, it makes you so much stronger. To know that Donald Trump had the faith in me to be the co-chair of the RNC during the course of this campaign, I mean, it's incredible. And I'll be grateful to him forever, because he really has shown me that there is no limit. You can do anything you want to do. And that's just the beauty of this country, that you can, whatever it is you dream, you can actually do it. You're only limited by your imagination and by your drive and work ethic. And that's the beauty of this country. And I am so grateful to Donald Trump, to my father-in-law, for showing me that anything's possible.
Well, but you stepped up to the plate and you really made a huge change for the American people. I mean, people have faith now in our voting system. And look how many people showed up. I get chills when I saw that. The map, it's all red.
That was the goal. We got a red map. Yeah, look, I wasn't going to be the Trump at the RNC who let everybody down. I knew taking this, that it was a very high stakes position, because obviously you got Donald Trump at the top, but no one would have let Lara Trump forget if things had gone awry, if things had not gone the right way. So I was like, if I don't sleep for 8 months, I'm not going to sleep for 8 months. It's fine. But look, I was so lucky. I had such a great team of people alongside of me. Michael Whatley, the chairman of the RNC, our whole election integrity team, they also stepped up to the plate, and they did incredible things, and we worked so well together. And it's not over though. We're gonna have to keep our foot on the gas forever on this. You can't let your guard down. We can't take this win for granted. We're going to have midterms coming up in 26, have another presidential election in 2028, which is crazy. Like, Katrina, you win one and you're like, oh, we should relax a minute. You can never relax. There's always like the next thing in politics, which is probably a lot of the excitement of it. But thank you for saying that. I'm grateful for the opportunity. I'm grateful for the team I had around me. And obviously I'm incredibly grateful for the American people, because they did turn out. And I guess it was worth me harassing people to vote early on television every single day. So I'm sorry, America.
No, but you know what? People saw your true colors, and they were able to say, hey, man, she's authentic, she's real. And I think part of it was also seeing the real Donald Trump. I think we saw that.
Yeah.
And I noticed a huge change myself after the assassination attempt. Like, his whole demeanor for me changed. How did you feel in that moment? Because I felt like, God was all I could think of.
Yeah, well, that's all I can think of too. And I think it's all that Donald Trump can think of is God. And I think he'll be the first to tell you that. You always can judge a person's character and who they are in those moments where there is something so big happening to them. To say that he almost had his life taken, I don't think that's an overstatement at all. He was millimeters away from death. And when you have a life or death experience, you just react. You don't have time to think. And his knee-jerk reaction was to stand up, to make sure the people, not just in that audience there, but he knew everyone around just the entire country and probably the entire world was going to be watching. And he wanted to make sure that everyone knew he was okay. That is who Donald Trump is. That is the leader he is. That is the person that the American people saw with their own eyes. And I think he did change. I think so many people had said to him that he was made for this moment, this time in our history, to make sure that this country was back on the right track. But I believe he then really believed it after that. I don't think he would, think that God saved his life for any other reason than to make sure he did the right thing for this country. And that's why he continued to fight. That's why nothing got in his way. And I do believe that God spared his life that day for America. And I think that not only did Donald Trump get another chance, but America got another chance as well.
And his instinct was just to get up and say, fight, fight, fight.
Yeah.
That just shows you what a warrior he is.
At heart, yeah. And you can't fake that. You can't plan that. It's just, that's natural. That's what comes to him. And that's the kind of leader that people want to get behind. They want someone like that. My gosh, for 4 years, people are just like, can we get anyone to lead this country? Where is our president? Why are we so weak? Why are things so bad? And to see that this man in this moment stand up and do what he did, absolutely incredible.
And after he won, Lara, everybody felt like it was Christmas. Literally. Everyone I spoke to was like, it's Christmas, it's Christmas. The hope that you all brought back to Americans is priceless, right? I see just people and they're proud to wear the American flag. in my neighborhood, all the Trump signs are out. You know, even people that didn't have them beforehand.
That's the interesting thing to me. I constantly am hearing from people that are like, yeah, my neighbors didn't have a Trump sign out. They put it out on November 6th. I'm like, oh, okay. But you know what? That's okay. We like that and we will take that. And I'll tell you something, it's not just Americans. It's all around the world. I was just in Argentina. I was also just in the Middle East. And I will tell you, every single place I have been, people from all different backgrounds, from all different walks of life, people who, I don't know what their religion is, what, it doesn't matter. They are all happy that Donald Trump is back in the White House because they understand too, it's better for the entire world to have a strong, stable leader at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. So yeah, it's like Americans had a weight and the world had a weight lifted off of us. And it's palpable out there everywhere you go. So if people don't have their Trump signs out yet, you could still put them out, folks. It's not too late.
I see it everywhere. I see it on trucks. I see it just all over the place. It's just this pride that we have back. And I think also for our children, we wanted it. I think that's why everybody does what they're doing, right? It's because we want them to have a bright future.
Right.
And so forth. And I know so much of what you did was because of that. What about what he did for you, right? And what he inspired you to do, he's done for so many other people, myself being one of them, but also so many people. And it's not spoken about enough. All of the people that used to work at the Trump organization that started off as like security or like all of these people slowly but surely rose up in the organization. And that shows so much of his character.
Well, and it's a little bit, it speaks to also his cabinet choices and the people he's appointing to these posts in his administration. They are not traditional establishment type choices for a lot of these positions. People are like, whoa, this one's different. Yeah, they're different. And that's probably why Donald Trump wants them there. He has this incredible ability to see things in people that I don't even think they see in themselves. And you're right. He has done it consistently throughout his career. And I don't even know that he understands the impact he's had in people's lives. But if you go to the Trump organization right now, the top executives at the Trump organization started out as doormen, as drivers, as security guards. It's amazing because no one else, Katrina, would have ever given them a chance.
At all.
But Donald Trump was like, I don't know, maybe you could do this. Do you want to give this a shot? And he gave him a chance. He doesn't care about pedigree. He doesn't care about any of that other stuff, but he knows what's deep down in somebody. And he sees their drive and he sees their passion and he sees a little spark in people sometimes that I don't even think they recognize in themselves. And he did it for me. All of the things that I've been able to accomplish and do, I have to give him so much credit for inspiring me to do, encouraging me to do. But he's done it throughout the course of his life. These people are still there today. They're still at the Trump organization. And, it's amazing because that's the kind of leader we should want. We want somebody to continue to inspire us, not just to lead us as a president, but we should all take a note from that because maybe there's a different way you can look at doing things. Maybe there's a different way you can look at hiring people in the future. And he certainly has encouraged that.
Well, I love his cabinet choices because, like you said, they are very different. And I love the fact that these are not people that have been in Washington, D.C. Because anyone that has been in Washington, D.C.,
bye.
Oh, I can't. I could only be there for 2 days. I'm like, get me out. It's tough, even within the same party. So I think this is going to be just amazing to see these people go in there. They're going to be his eyes and ears. They're loyal, and you can't buy loyalty. That to me is priceless. And they're going to work hard to prove themselves.
Yeah. And that's what the American people wanted. They did, if they wanted the powers that be in Washington, D.C. to control the future of this country, then they would have chosen Kamala Harris. They did not. They chose an outsider. And even though Donald Trump was president for 4 years, he still considers himself an outsider. I think a lot of people still consider him an outsider. And the amazing thing is his first 4 years there, he learned so much. This man is a quick study. He doesn't need a lot of time to study up on things. He learns very quickly. He learned very quickly in DC. And he'll be the first to say, look, I got a bit of a rude awakening when I first got there because he didn't have the greatest people by his side, unfortunately. And it was very hard. It was an uphill battle the whole 4 years he was in that White House. He's not going to make that mistake again. He's putting trusted people in these positions who he knows can do the job. They'll work hard for the American people. They're not going to be working half the time to sell stories or leak stories or stab him in the back. They're there to do the job that he has tasked them to do on behalf of the American people. And I think it's going to be a great thing for this country.
Aside from all the political arena and so forth, what do you want your legacy to be at the end of the day?
Oh, wow. Well, I feel like I've only written the first chapter of my book.
I feel like you have only written the first chapter. Not even like half of the first chapter.
Gosh.
I just see. I think you can run for president one day, Lara. I swear to you, I would vote for you.
I have one vote here.
Out there.
That's so nice. Thank you. Look, all of the things that have happened in my life have been unbelievable so far. I hope that I can inspire people. I think that, when you hear from people out there around the country, and this is one of the experiences I got to have traveling the country for my father-in-law during the campaigns, it's amazing to see how one person can impact so many. And to hear people's stories, people with tears in their eyes telling me why they love this man, why they want to vote for him, why they volunteered for him, why they have to have him back in the White House, it really does, it impacts you very deeply. And, to be able to encourage and inspire people and maybe make somebody take another look at themselves and say, you know what, I can do that. I am good enough to do that. I am strong enough to do that. Wow, that would be incredible. And I've been so humbled because there are a lot of people, specifically women, who approach me and tell me these things about me, that they feel inspired by me. And what a compliment. That's so nice. So I hope I can continue to do that. And in whatever that is for people and whatever they're dealing with in life, I would love to know that I played a small part in encouraging somebody to do something that maybe they were scared to do, maybe they were nervous to do. Honestly, it's the reason that I do crazy things like triathlons and marathons, because I'm like, it's 26.2 miles seems nuts to run, but I'll do it. I like to do things that scare me, because then when I face them in life in other ways, I say, I know I could accomplish this one thing. I could probably also accomplish this. So if I can inspire and encourage people, that would be a great legacy to leave.
Speaking of working out, when we were on the Women for Bus tour, I remember you would show up and I'd be like, Lara, you're an inspiration for arms. Like back in the day when I was watching Friends, I'd always look at Courtney Cox's and Jennifer Aniston's arms and I'm like, Lara is that for us.
Oh my gosh.
Ladies. But how do you continue to get the motivation to work out? Are you working out every day? And you just launched your active active wear.
Yes, thank you. That's something I put on hold for a while. Had a small campaign and election. I had a life going on before all of this stuff. Imagine that. And I was like, okay, well, I'll just wait on all of these other things. I try to do something every day. I really do. And it's half of it is physical, but the other half is mental. And you can ask Eric Trump, if I don't get that workout in for a couple of days, I am not pleasant to be around. It's the time I give to myself. And sometimes that's the only time I get, in the course of a day. Moms out there know nobody does anything as great as mom does. So you always are needed when you're there, when you're home. So I feel like I get pulled in a million directions on a daily basis, like I'm sure a lot of people. But I am like, you know what? I'm going to dedicate this time to me. It might be just me listening to music. It might just be silence, me going out for a run and it's quiet and I can think. And one of the things I really like doing is swimming.
Really? I could picture you as a swimmer.
It's just quiet. There's nothing. And you can get those in-ear headphones. I don't even want them. I'm like, you know what? No. I think a lot. I work through problems and things that I have to do in my head, but that's my time. And so I think that that's been very important for me to maintain that in no matter how crazy life gets. And sometimes I set that alarm really early and my husband thinks I'm nuts. But he also knows that if I don't get that, it might not be so pretty.
Go, honey.
Yeah.
But you can't even do walks by yourself now in the mornings because you were telling me that the lawn's going and then also you're doing radio interviews. Does she stop?
If you hear me on the radio, there's a high likelihood I'm walking my dogs at the same time because I'm trying to fit it in. Look, I want to be with my dogs too. I want to hang out with them too.
You are such a dog lover. God bless you for that, because that's something that Donald Trump really vested in because of you.
Yeah. Well, and I think there will be more. This is maybe a little known fact. We have the highest occurrence of dog and cat euthanizations right now in this country. It's because people can't afford their life, and when you're making a tough decision as to whether or not you're going to put food on the table for your kids or you're going to keep your family pet, unfortunately, the family pet is usually the one that goes. And so I think that there will be a lot of positive movement for animals starting January 20th when our economy comes back around and Donald Trump is back in the office of the presidency. But he made animal torture and cruelty a felony when he was in the White House. He banned the selling and consumption of dog and cat meat in the United States, which is hard to believe that wasn't illegal already. But it sends a signal to the rest of the world. The things we do here are impactful in the rest of the world. And so he knows I'm probably coming for him with more in the second term. He's always like, yeah, she loves the dogs. She loves the dogs. And I do love the dogs and the cats.
Well, thank you so much, Lara, for being you, for being real, for being authentic, and for having the courage to continue to be vulnerable so that you can inspire women and children and men alike.
Thank you. Thank you. No, listen, I don't know how I ended up where I've ended up, but I'm grateful for it every day. And I want to be a great example for my kids. I hope they look back on this, like I said, and not just are proud of me, but hopefully they're encouraged themselves one day to do things that scare them, that they might view at some time as impossible. And I think that's all we can all hope to do is be an inspiration and encourage one another. And if I can be a small part of that for anybody, it's an honor.
Well, you're here because you're a good person and you do shine the light back to others, which is so incredibly gratifying and it's admirable. So thank you for being you.
Right back at you, my friend. I would say the same about you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mirrors and Windows with Katrina Campins.